Yeah, it looks like we've got 41 online here. So yeah, why don't we just
Oh,
go ahead and get into it here?
all right. Okay, people, hang in there with me. I have so much to cover that I'd love to share with you, and I want you to be successful. Uh, but this is day one of your program. You're going to do a deep dive in many of the technical areas. I'm giving you the management and strategic overview of where you're headed with your companies. And what I want to do now, briefly, not in any deep detail, is talk about more of your capacity. When we get to operating strategy, let me remind you where we are. You have three possible sources of competitive advantage, all of which depend on your operating strategy. If you're going to do it better, it is your operating strategy that has some superior appeal to your customer base. If you're going to do it differently, you have to be as good as your competitors from an operation standpoint, but also give your target market something special, a reason to do business with you. If you're going to gain customer loyalty, if that's your strategy, you need an operating strategy that delivers results for them. Otherwise, the purchasing agent involved is going to be looking at your competitors to say who can give better value to me in terms of cost, quality, delivery, flexibility. That's how it works. So that's why this stuff is important. You have to develop capacity, and a key element of capacity is operating strategy. So let me tell you what this means. Okay, so we already talked about your selection of customers. Yes, you want the best customers. Of course you do. I get that. But not everybody is the right customer for you, even if they're the right customer for somebody else. And if you don't have the core competencies to deal with that customer, if you don't have the scale to deal with that customer, it's not going to work. But it's also not going to work if they want something you're just not set up to provide. And that's where you look at your own operating strategy because it determines your success. Okay? That's what this says. All right. So this is a self-assessment thing you're going to do, uh, probably after hours. Remember, I keep promising you homework. I got to give homework. I'm an Ivy League professor. That's what I do. I give homework. But think about the dimensions for a minute that I want you to evaluate your company on. What does it mean that we compete on quality in your industry? What are your customers looking for? If they say you're a high quality operation, what are they actually picking up on? And it's different for different customers. That's the thing. So sometimes quality is no deviations from specifications. Sometimes quality is going above and beyond. Sometimes it's the customer feels indebted to you somehow for having created superior value. Sometimes it's functionality. What's quality? Okay, we got a new phone system. Here's an example. My wife went out and bought this. It's an AT&T system, and for the life of me, I can't retrieve messages. I've got 23 messages, and I have no idea how to ever get those out. That's why I tell people, don't leave me a message. I'd love to talk to you, but send me a text, and then I know I'm going to be able to retrieve the message. And then I'll talk to you all you want, but if you leave it on my home phone, uh, I have a wife who is ADD and doesn't do phone messages. She picks them up and listens to them, and then forgets to tell me. And that's okay. She's very good, but not passing on your messages. And this new phone system, it's been here for 3 weeks, and I still haven't figured out how to make it work. So there's an example of we we compete on quality. It's not quality for me. The thing is a lot more sophisticated than the last phone system, but if I can't use it, quality doesn't mean anything. I'll say, so what is quality? What does it mean for you? And then what does it mean for your customer? And is it the same thing? If they're looking for quality that's that basically is surface textures, really fine-grained wood, or paint that is absolutely flawless because you've put 9 coats on and sanded between coats. I mean, that's one kind of quality. And you've got to say, is that what we mean by quality? Okay, cost. What does cost actually mean in the environment? We compete on cost. Is that cost minimization? It can be. Or is it that we stay within budget? And it may not be the cheapest in the world, but we're not going to go above cost. Sometimes people make an inference that the more you spend, the higher quality you get. So cost becomes a negative, an illogical thing. That like Tiffany's diamonds, they're not any different. I mean, a diamond is actually carbon atoms that have been squoze together by the Earth's crust, the weight of the Earth's crust, into a highly latticed crystal. This is what it is. A diamond is a diamond, okay? But some people think the more you spend on a diamond, the better the quality. And it isn't actually true, but it is what it is. So that's where high cost is better than low cost. People don't want a cheap diamond, they want an expensive diamond. Okay, it's a luxury good. So if it's cheap, it's actually worth less than if it's expensive. So you got to think about, what does cost mean in your context? Delivery. Sometimes you compete on delivery. If you're FedEx or UPS, the sooner you get the package to your customer, the better off you're doing. But that's not true in the construction world always. If somebody has missed a deadline and you need stuff right away, sooner is better. But in the construction industry, it's mostly just in time. So if you're delivering drywall and you're doing a super good job, I can have all the drywall on site 3 weeks before we need it. Well, what are they going to do with 3 weeks worth of drywall when they're trying to get a lot of other things done? It's going to get in the way. So just in time can be a lot better than early. And sometimes late is better. That, hey, I need this delivered after 2023 because it's in that budget. Can you postpone delivery? That gives you a delivery advantage over somebody who can't do that. Okay, so think just in time, not late, not early, exactly when you promised it, exactly when the customer needs it. Maybe the kind of delivery that gives you competitive advantage. Okay, think about it. Flexibility. Sometimes you need flexibility, sometimes you don't. Okay, flexibility can be a different design. Well, what you've been offering isn't exactly right for us. If you could do this and this instead, that's a kind of flexibility. Okay, flexibility can be on delivery. I can postpone a week, or I can get it to you a week early. We got it in inventory. I can get it to you. Okay, so think about for you and your customer, what is cost in that context? What is quality that's going to speak to them, not you? What's going to speak to them? Delivery, what are they looking for? And can you do it? And flexibility, do you need flexibility? You don't always need flexibility. But if that's something the customer requires, can you deliver for them? Because they're going to be evaluating you on these 4 dimensions. Now, here's what you need to know about the 4 dimensions. You can't be number one at all four. It just has never happened. Okay. And there's been, probably 500 studies by operations management academics, serious research, and nobody has ever found a company that was good on all four. They haven't found a company that's good on three of them. Okay. Sometimes you get a company that's best in the world at two of them, and that's miraculous to find one of those. Usually there's one thing you're best in the world at and three things you're okay at. You pass muster, but you excel at the one thing that's most important to customers. Okay? We're good just in general. You got questions about the framework? Because it doesn't matter what industry you're in. Operations management specialists can always boil it down to something about quality, something about cost, something about delivery, something about flexibility. Okay, so they'll do all their research and they'll put it into these four categories. And I need you to do the same thing for your customers. What are they looking for? And for your company, what have you spent your time developing in excellence? Okay, so let's look at example of this.
Hey, Len, real
Use a
quick.
couple of examples. Yeah,
Len, I want to jump right in because I just posted in the chat how critical these four dimensions are. And we're going to be spending more time in upcoming classes to talk about these in detail. And I think one takeaway, as Len gives you some examples, is the priority changes from customer to customer, client to client. So it's understanding that there's no one size fits all here. And from one client to another, their focus may be on cost, but another one may be on quality, or another one may be on delivery. And delivery is the same thing as schedule. Cost and price go hand in hand. Quality and capability go hand in hand. So when you look at these four factors, you should always take that into consideration when you're pursuing clients, whether they be existing clients or new clients, on what is their focus. What is it that they are specifically focused on in order for you to win that work?
good. Thank you, Javed. And I'm glad you're coming back to this set of issues. I mean, we do matchmaking events, NMSDC and WeBank and other major groups that I work with. They'll do matchmaking and they don't get what matchmaking is about. Matchmaking is the customer's requirements compatible with your operating strategy. That's what matchmaking is. And sometimes, matchmaking, people are just shooting the breeze. Am I comfortable with this other person? But that's not what it's about. Is can you deliver for your customer? And Javed is exactly right. Different customers want different things, and they want different things at different points in time. So just because somebody had one set of priorities in 2022 doesn't mean in 2025 they're going to have the same priorities. It actually is quite dynamic. You need to speak this vocabulary, is what Javed is telling you. That's what I'm telling you. Okay, so let's look at an example. What do you think Walmart, when they look at customers, what are they looking for? They think quality is number one. They think cost is number one. They think delivery is number one. They think flexibility is number one. What do you think is number one? And what do you think Walmart buyers would tell you? Okay, what they're going to tell you is cost is number one, because their value proposition as a retailer is everyday low prices or some variation of that same phrase. So they will not subsidize your inefficiency. So if you're working with Walmart and you're not a low-cost operation, don't waste your time with that client. I mean, they're just never going to do business with you. So cost is number one for Walmart, okay, because of their own value proposition. So what do you think is number two? And they would tell you it's delivery, okay? Because they have a policy at the corporate level is you don't put things into inventory if there's any way to avoid it. So everything has to be just in time. It goes from your production facilities to their shipping dock to on the shelf to the customer's checkout basket. That's what Walmart wants, a straight flow. If it ends up on a shelf, okay, it has to end up on a shelf for a while, but they'll look at how long it's lasting on a shelf, and they want quick pass-through items. So delivery is actually number two. Number three is quality, but what do you think quality means at Walmart? It means good enough, okay? It doesn't mean it's the high quality brand name. It means there's going to be no complaints. And if there's any complaints, if a customer's not satisfied with quality, it gets returned to the Walmart store, and Walmart instantly sends it back to the shipper and bills the shipper for so they don't fool around with quality. If it doesn't work for the customer, you're going to get it back. And the question's going to be raised. Are you delivering to Walmart less quality than their customers expect? And you don't expect Tiffany level quality at Walmart, but it's got to be good enough. Okay? Flexibility is number four, because they will tell you, we don't need flexibility. We do such a great job of planning. We don't need any flexibility at all. We'll tell you when we need your delivery. And they'll say things to you like, okay, for the Christmas sale that they've already planned, I need you on December 17th, you need to be in St. Louis at the unloading dock at 5:30 in the morning, okay? If you're not there by 6 o'clock, you can't deliver because another truck will be waiting to back into your space. So that's what you need, 5:30, December 17th. Flexibility? They don't want flexibility. They do planning. So if you ask Walmart, what are they looking for in customers? They say, you've got to be low cost. You've got to be guaranteed delivery. And quality, it ought to be good enough. Flexibility, we don't want that. Now, suppose you're dealing with a company that buys exactly the same product line that Walmart buys, but is different. And that would be the American Red Cross. Because the Red Cross says, okay, we've got floods in part of the country here. We've got wildfires in California. We've got hurricanes hitting Florida and South Carolina. We've got COVID hitting here or there with an epidemic, and it's shutting down things. But when a hurricane has hit your house or a forest fire, you need everything that's for sale in a Walmart store, but you need it right away because you end up with nothing, okay? So what do you think is number one for the Red Cross? Is it the same as Walmart when they're looking at suppliers? What do you think is number two? So here's what Red Cross told me. Number one is flexibility. We don't know where and when we're going to need stuff. But number two is delivery. When the hurricane has hit or the floods have wiped out people's houses or the wildfires, we need the stuff right away because you're going to have people with no belongings. We need the housewares, we need the food, we need the clothing, we need all of the stuff that Walmart provides, but it's got to be right now. Quality, people are not picky if their house just burned down. They want clothing for the kids, they want minimal housewares, they need bedding, they need a crib for the baby. You need to get that to them, but it doesn't have to be the world's best quality. It's got to be good enough. Is this a low-cost operation? No, because you got all that stuff in inventory. The inventory carrying costs that Walmart will not pay for you'd better have for Red Cross, because when they don't know where the problem's going to be. It's like there's a hurricane out in the Atlantic now. Is it going to come ashore in the U.S.? Okay, the forecast says probably not, but you don't know. I mean, the hurricanes have this veering, and so the Red Cross is looking at the weather forecast every 15 minutes because they want as much heads up notice to pre-plan. Okay, it's going to come ashore in New Jersey. Where are the warehouses going to be safe that we can ship from, and how are we going to ship into that? And that's the questions they're asking. So if you're a supplier to Walmart, you're not going to be a supplier to the Red Cross because you got nothing in inventory. If you're a supplier to the Red Cross, your cost is way out of line. Walmart will never pay for that. So you got to choose one or the other, but you can't be both. Okay? Is that making sense? See how you've got to figure out your company, what you're able to do, your customers, what are they looking for? And if there's a match, then you've got matchmaking. If the customer wants something you can't possibly do, there's no match. There's no sense giving them a sales pitch. It's a waste of your time, and it's a waste of their time too. So you figure out, do I have the capacity to serve this customer? Do I have the core competency? But then do I have the operating strategy? They're going to worry about that if you don't. So you may as well worry about it. Get inside the person's head, who you're trying to sell to, what's important to him or her, and then can I deliver what the person needs? That's your operating strategy. Okay, we good? All right. I want to show you another, let's go right into the construction industry. I love talking to people about their operating strategy, but I also realize we have limited time. Suppose your job is public school construction. Okay, that's the segment of the market you're serving. Okay, what do you think is the priority? What do you think's number one? Let me hear from you guys. Unmute and speak up. What's number one in public school construction?
Safety.
Okay, safety, that would be part of the definition of quality. Say again?
The plans. To plan to build.
The plans?
Yes.
I say the cost with public schools, because a lot of public schools really don't have a lot of.
Yeah, so they go for lowest bid.
Delivery.
Right.
Delivery, why?
Because they only have 3 months in the summer to get the jobs done before.
Exactly. They will tell you delivery is number one. The people who do,
Right.
I get a lot of friends in construction. They'll say, if you can't have the new school open or refurbished or whatever you're doing by September 1st, you're not eligible to bid. The school, you can't finish up like in January or February the way you can in some other things, because the school needs to be open. So delivery becomes the number one issue. If you can guarantee delivery, then you start to look at other things. So if that's number one, what's number two? That's cost. Yeah. So cost becomes number two. You've got to be the low bidder, subject to your ability to deliver on time. Okay, so how does quality fit into this? Somebody said, which is true, that safety is very important. Safety and durability. Kids are hard on buildings. They're hard on furniture. They're hard on everything. It's just kids being kids, okay? You know that. Anybody's got kids. No, stuff gets scratched up, it gets dented, it gets destroyed. So durability and safety are what you need in quality here. Now, in public school construction, flexibility, according to my friends in this business, say that's very little because you got to work to blueprint, you got to work to plans, you got to work to budget, you got to work to schedule. You don't have much flexibility. So here's what my friends in the industry say is the priority for public school construction. Okay, we good? Is that making sense to everybody? All right. Let me give you a contrasting construction example. Luxury homes, the McMansions, they call them 8 by 2 by 2s here on the coast of Maine where I live, which is 8,000 square feet for two people who are going to be there 2 weeks out of the year. So, but the very expensive homes on the coast is good business. But what do you think if you're going to be bidding on or trying to sell your services for luxury home construction? What do you think's number 1, 2, 3, 4? What do you think's number 1? Anybody? Unmute and just say.
I'd say quality.
Yeah, quality. It is quality, but what is quality the same in the public school, which is about safety and durability?
No.
No. You get into a luxury home, it's experienced surfaces. Is the wood a particular kind of wood? Is the paint done well? Glazing, appliances. A luxury home looks like a luxury home. So that's number 1. It's got to be quality. People are paying for quality. Okay, what do you think is number 2?
Delivery.
One time. The duration.
Okay, here's what my friends in this industry tell me. They say it's flexibility. And here's what they say. They say rich people deal with an architect, but they don't really know what a set of blueprints is all about. So as soon as you get the sticks up, if these are stick-built homes, which they are on the coast of Maine here, they say you get the sticks put together, you get the stairway roughed in, then you better bring the couple, whoever's going to be living here, in to take a look at it. Because what happens is one person in the couple, and the local people who do this say it's either the mother or the person who has the female role is going to say, wait a minute, what's this here? And they'll look at a space. Well, that's a closet. Whose closet is it? Well, it's your closet. You expect me to live in this closet? What's this room behind it? That's the kids' room. The hell with the kids. That's a walk-in closet. They say those kind of things. The stairway's in the wrong place. Well, I mean, that's a structural element. I don't care whether it's a structural element. You can't have the stairway going down and then the bathroom right opposite. That's not going to work. Well, you approved the architectural drawings. I know. It didn't matter. I don't get architectural drawings. I get space. So move the staircase. Okay. So there's it's a change order business. So flexibility is a big deal. Quality is one, flexibility is a big deal. What about custom delivery? What do you think about delivery for high-end homes?
Delivery
Is it the
would
same thing if you're late with a high-end home, is that like being late in a school district? The answer is no, by the way, because everybody who buys high-end property says don't expect it to be on time or on budget. That's just not going to happen. So usually they've got it, like the people around here, I'm the coast of Maine, I told you. We've got probably 50% of the people who have very high-end homes have a winter home in Florida, and they spend 8 months a year in Florida. And so if they're a high-end home, it's more important you get it right than you get it on deadline. So they can spend an extra week in Florida or an extra month, or they can go to Santa Fe, or they can go to Europe for a while, or they can go on their yacht. It's just different. So is this a low-cost operation? What do you think? No, it can't possibly be low cost if you're you're being picky about quality and change orders. People in luxury home construction bid on the job, but they make their money out of change orders. They say, yeah, we'll get you bid on the job to get in the job, but you don't know what you're actually doing until you start putting stuff up and you get the couple in. That's when you start to make your money on this. So is it cynical? I don't know whether it's cynical, but it is what it is. So here's what they tell me are the priorities. Number one is quality. Number two is flexibility. Three is delivery, and it's a high cost operation. And they're okay with that. Now, suppose you've got a business, a construction business set up to do public schools, and you're really good, and you win a lot of bids on that. Is it easy for you to send your crew out to do luxury homes? No, because their priorities are all backwards. And if you get somebody who's been doing luxury homes for a while, and you try to put them on public school construction, that's going to be a disaster, because that's not how you do public schools. It's about durability. It's about on time, on budget. It's not a luxury home, which is a change order business. So what I tell people is, if you want to go into those two extremely opposite sectors, you may have to have two divisions within your company. Have a public school division, and they do public sector stuff, and have a luxury home division, and they're all about customer satisfaction and dealing with the purchasers. But it's rare you can get somebody who's equally good at switching gears. All right, now I've got to stop thinking about quality, and I've got to start thinking about cost or delivery or sticking to a deadline. It's just a different culture in the two sets of companies. You with me? Is that making sense? All right. Put your own numbers in it if you want to. If you don't agree with the rankings that I've got from construction industry people, put your own rankings in there and then ask yourself the same question. But ultimately, here's what I want you to do. And this is another homework assignment. But it's a strategic homework assignment you don't have to do overnight. As you're thinking about selling to a new client, what do you think the customer's priority is when they're looking for a vendor, a supplier? They have priorities. And then you look at your own company and say, what have I grown here? And you've created the culture in your own company that is going to dictate a lot about the various components of your operating strategy. And how have you positioned your company? Is it a low-cost operation? Is it a dedicated to schedule kind of company? Is it a superior quality company? Are you infinitely flexible? You can change on a dime? What have you created? And who are the customers that are going to be appropriate for you, that are looking for exactly who you are? And if you're not doing well at matchmaking, ask yourself the question, is there a mismatch between what the customer is looking for and what you're set up to deliver? And if there is, don't waste your time on that particular customer. Either amend your operating strategy and change the culture in your company, or go after customers that really value what it is you have to offer. But the mismatch, I see the mismatch all the time. And if you talk to supplier diversity professionals, which I do all the time, they'll tell me 95% of the conversations I have with diverse companies, they miss us. I'm putting in the time, they are never going to get any business because they haven't thought about who it is we are and what we're looking for in a supplier and who they are. And what these are supplier diversity professionals. And they say, what you got to watch about is people try to sell you a job and they will exaggerate their real capabilities all the time. So we've got to look beyond the hype that they give to their own companies and say, what do they really do? And the way we do that is to look at their past customer list and call somebody up. Okay, these people say they can do this. And then you talk to another purchasing agent. Well, they'll tell you that, but they can't. Here's what they're really going to do. So that's how, in the purchasing business, I haven't been in that for a number of years, but I talk to purchasing people all the time. That's what matchmaking is for us. Who can give us what we need? Okay? And forget the hype. I'm not interested in the hype. I'm really interested in what you can do. How you're going to make me look good. Okay? So this is a big strategic issue for you. Think about what you've set up and who the appropriate customer base is for you to be targeting. Okay, we good? All right, you're going to get more on operating strategy as the Clark program unfolds over the next 8 months. But this is an important one. That's why we're spending some time on it now to flag it as something that's important for you. Okay, so I'm going to, if I can, switch up here, give you the last one, if it'll do it. All right, why is this not doing it? There we go. Slideshow from beginning. Okay, last night, Job had sent you 2 sets of questionnaires, and I hope you had time to do it. One of them it takes 10 minutes to do. There's 39 items, and you just score each dimension of your own company on a 1 to 10 scale. And I want to explain what's in back of those choices now quickly so that you can assess your own company. You've already assessed it if you filled out that questionnaire, and it tells you where the weak links are and where the strengths are. But let me explain what the stuff is all about. Okay? Being strategically focused, the number one thing that holds you all back. Okay? What does it mean? It means, are you set up to do it better than the competition? Are you differentiated in a way that matters to the customer? Or do you have this business is yours to lose kind of customer loyalty, either from referrals or from past history? Then what you got to do is figure out where you are, how you're trying to compete, and then did you set up your business in a way that's going to get you there? All right? So what does that actually mean? Okay? First, you ask, am I customer focused or am I self-focused? And there's a tendency for people to be self-focused at their own expense. So don't let this happen to you. What's the customer looking for? Can you deliver, or are you going to get a dissatisfied customer? And a dissatisfied customer is going to give you a dissatisfied referral, which is what you don't want because you're in a word of mouth business, okay? Construction especially is word of mouth. You don't go to the yellow pages, you don't go to social media. If you're getting bad reviews from an existing customer, none of that's going to matter. So you've got to get this right. What does a customer want, and am I delivering for them? Okay, now how do you do that? You do that through a set of processes. And processes you're familiar with. Like if you've got, well, let me just use an example of getting to Chicago. if I call, I've got like more than 1 million miles on American Airlines because I fly all the time, or I used to before COVID. 100 flights a year. That's what I mean by flying all the time. So I want to get to Chicago. All right. So I'm driving to the airport. And when does my plane actually take off? I call American Airlines. What do you think I get? What do you think their process is like for somebody with 1 million miles? It's like this. I get on the phone, dial 1 if you want English, 2 if you want Spanish. So you're driving along and you got to hit a 1 to get to the next stage. Now, is this a new reservation? And they ask you, the final thing they ask you is, can you put in your ticket number? And I'm doing 65 miles an hour on the interstate. No, I don't have the ticket number. If I had the ticket number, I wouldn't be calling you. Okay, because I'd also know what time this plane actually took off. And is it being delayed or whatever? That's a process of dealing with their most important customers. Okay? Is it a good process? I don't think it's a good process. I hate 800 numbers. Okay? I'd rather have a live person. I could say, this is who it is. Here's what my problem is. Can you answer this? Okay? But who designed the process that had me go through all these numbers on this damn telephone that I can hardly use in the first place? It was an efficiency person who said you redesign your processes to maximize profitability. And they sold that to American Airlines. If you want repeat business, you're better off having customer satisfaction. Let them talk to a real person. It'll pay off for you in the long run. Okay, so here's what I want to ask you guys. It's another homework assignment. What's the most important process in your business? Is it being on schedule? Is it between order and delivery? Is it assessing the customer's needs? Is it quality control? What's the most important process for you? Okay, think about that. And then think about, should it be improved? Which means, in practical terms, what would your customers say? Is that an advantage of your business, dealing with your processes, or would the customers say, I like dealing with these guys, but this process is really not what we were looking for. I wish they would do this instead. That's what you're looking at. Customer satisfaction derived from the way you go about delivering services or delivering products or interacting or sorting out problems or whatever. What's your processes? I don't know. It's different for all of you, but it's going to make you or break you in terms of customer satisfaction and repeat business and positive referrals. And you're in a referral business. You don't select construction suppliers from the yellow pages. Somebody says these are good guys to deal with. And then you've got to deal with the purchasing people. Okay? All right. Now, I don't have time to go into great detail here. Organization architecture is structure. It's not physical architecture. And I realize you're in the building trades, and architecture means something very specific in your domain. I'm talking about reporting relationships. How are you structured? So if you have a process that depends on you because you're small, that's fine as long as you stay small and you stay attended. But how do you get bigger if everything has to come through you to fix processes? And that's where the structure starts to make a difference. If you're going to have a manager who reports to you, then you've changed the structure, the organizational architecture. Is that working for you? Okay. And then when you get bigger still, you need managers who report to managers. Is that working for you? Is it working for your people? Is it working for your clients? Okay. Is it making the processes easier, or is it making the processes more difficult, more remote, harder for you to keep control of? Okay. So is our organizational architecture right for your size and scale and operations? Okay, then you look at the resources. And what are the resources? It's money, it's people, and it's technology. So money, you should think about cash flow. That's the most important thing for you to pay attention to on a day-to-day basis. Okay? You're going to get a segment on finance as part of the Clark program. But you should be getting data from your accountant or your bookkeeper or your chief financial officer, whoever provides the data on cash flow. Okay? Some people, we've had them in the program, some people that come to the program say, yeah, I never look at that. I just look at the profitability statement. Okay, well, profitability is retrospective. It tells you at the end of the year how you did in the previous year. Cash flow will tell you where you're at right now and are you headed for a problem. So be careful about your portfolio should be generating resources just in time for you to need them to reinvest in your business or to finance inventory or hiring or whatever you need it for. That's cash flow planning. Very important for you guys. Okay? Technology. It's possible that technology can get away from you. And you should be making the technology adoption decisions as the manager, as the leader, as the chief executive of your company. Don't leave it to the smartest techno freak, because they will give you a level of technology that impresses all their friends, but your people can't use. That would be an extreme example that I run into all the time. That you ask people about the technology in the company. I don't know. I can't figure it out. And I'm one of them. I can't figure out how to retrieve messages on my new telephone system. There's a way to do it. I just haven't figured out how to do it yet. So I'm one of them. I'm the old guard. But I'm the person who needs to be able to operate the phone. Be careful of technology. You need to have the level of technology that your customer requires. Okay? No more, but certainly no less. Don't tell your customer, oh, we can't do that. It's too technical for us. No. Figure out what level of technology they require of their suppliers and make sure you're up to speed on that. Okay? Now, knowledge workers. Workers in general are hard to find in 2022. Okay? We have a lot more demand out there than there is supply. And it's true of just about all the trades. But you have those staffing issues. Everybody has those staffing issues. That's kind of a flattened competitive space. Everybody has trouble getting the workforce they need to stay there. But I'm talking about a different kind of worker. A knowledge worker is somebody who can help you get to the next level in your business. And it's not just anybody. Somebody can be a good plumber or a good electrician or good at drywall. That doesn't mean they're good at management. But somebody who is good at those things and is also a good manager becomes a knowledge worker. All right. Now, a knowledge worker is the hardest one to hang on to because there's a lot of industry demand for his or her skills. So you're most at risk of losing the people you most need to take your company where it needs to go. Okay, so how are you going to hang on to those people? How are you going to find them in the first place? And the U.S. educational system, I could spend an hour on why it's letting you down. But we have one of the worst educational systems in the developed world. The level of illiteracy is staggering, especially in the diverse community, because the rich get richer in the society and the poor get poorer. It shouldn't be that way. You need to push back against it. I push back against it all the time. I make myself a lot of enemies because I'm the Ivy League professor who tells it like it is and tells some people things they don't want to hear about why it's self-defeating behavior to be greedy in many cases. So anyway, knowledge workers. I don't have time to give that the attention it needs, but I want to flag it as an issue for you. Be careful of workforce and be careful of thinking that compensation is what's going to hold on to people. Compensation is going to give you ulcers. It's not a long-run strategy for keeping people. So what you do in the short run is going to haunt you in the long run. I hate compensation issues because it's just a nightmare. There's no good ways to do compensation. The best ways, I'm going to just leave you with this, is shared profits. Profitability at the end of the year, if everybody gets a small profitability share, is going to work better than almost anything else you can do. But that's a topic for another day, and I don't have another day. Okay. If you get the resources you need to operate the business, then you need to have systems in place to check up that what you specified in the strategy is actually seeing the light of day. Okay? So systems are several things. The controls is one of them. So start out with thinking about, if I'm successful in this business, what would I see as results? Okay? What are you trying to get? Now, here's where people go wrong. They focus on profitability, which is easy to measure. Okay, it's not necessarily accurate because you adjust amortization and depreciation schedules, and your profitability can look very different. And there's a joke among accountants where you ask an accountant, how profitable are we? And the accountant's going to say, well, tell me what you want to see, and I'll tell you, I'll give you that number. Because all you do is just adjust depreciation and amortization, tax deferrals, and things like that to determine how profitable you are. That's not the key metric by which you should be measuring your business. Start out with, if I was doing a really good job with this business, what would I see as results? Okay, start with that and then say, how do I measure that? And it could be things like referrals, customer satisfaction, employee satisfaction, employee retention. None of that is profitability, okay? But they're all very important. So you figure out what's important, what's unimportant, and that should be the focus of your systems to find out whether you're being successful based on your own strategy, okay? Okay, now control systems are ways of just checking up according to practice. And you have budgets that tells you whether you're spending faster than you should. You have quality control. You have the critical path. Am I hitting all my deadlines, or am I delaying future people on the construction project because I'm behind on my part of it? My part's got to be finished before their part. I mean, there's a control system that says, are you on schedule? Okay, on the critical path. Gantt charts, there's all sorts of ways of doing it. And we'll talk about that more as the Clark program unfolds. But some people have control systems that are not working. What are they? And that's part of your homework. What are you not doing that you ought to be doing a better job of? And how do you fix it? Okay? And everybody's got these issues. The most important control system you've got, and it's one that's usually least functional, is performance appraisal. You're paying people to do a job for you. That's what your workforce is. But what kind of performance appraisal are you giving them? Is it once a year? You don't do that in other domains of your life. If you're married, how long does it take for you to get feedback if you screw up? Is it your next anniversary? No. If you've got kids and the kid screws up, do you wait till their next birthday to say, okay, here's a list of all the things you should have done differently? No, you're going to tell the kid right away. Why wouldn't you do that in corporations, in small businesses, in daily life. Somehow when we get in business, we say, well, that's uncomfortable for me, so I'm not going to give that feedback. Well, that's a broken control system, and quite often it's the most important control system you got. Okay, so toughen up, give people the feedback they need and want. Okay? Okay, now the third mechanism is, are you communicating with the people who need to have some idea about what you're looking for in their contribution? Okay, a lot of people don't do that. Most people don't do that, if you really want to know. And there's national surveys done, and they always come up with the same data. There's a lot of people feel like they're kept in the dark most of the time. They've actually given it a term. It's called the mushroom theory of management. It's a little bit cynical, but it's keep your employees in the dark and feed them BS is the politest way to say it. But most people don't learn what makes the company successful. How are we doing? What do we need to do differently? What's the customer looking for? What are they discontent about? Where are we headed? Why can't you tell people those things? Okay? You have a tendency not to do that if you're typical. If you're atypical, you're going to run a better business than if you're like everybody else who doesn't talk enough about where are we headed and how we're going to get there. Okay, so if you get all of that right, you can take your best people. This is your knowledge workers, your whoever they are, the ones that can help you get your business to the next level. Turn them loose. Say, this is what I'm trying to do. Can you help me get there? Okay, but you can't do it if the strategy is unclear, if your processes are broken, if your organization architecture is screwed up and nobody's going to cooperate with this person because they're in a different silo. If there's no resources, if you can't give them the time or the manpower or the woman power or the technology, you're going to frustrate them, giving them more responsibility than they can be successful at. You've got to think about, do we have a way of checking up to make sure we're on target? Don't just empower and hope for the best. Empower and measure what's happening. Okay? But if you do that and get it all right, you're ready to reiterate. We've moved the business to the next level. Do we have to update the strategy? Do we need more sophisticated processes? Do I have to change the reporting structure? Do I need more resources? Do I need more sophisticated systems? So you're always doing that. So when is your job done as the manager or owner? It's never done. You're always doing this. Okay, so you have to remember this is not a mechanical process. It's a people process. So you think about the relationships, and if you screw up relationships, you screw up the entire business. Okay? So you can't have a bad relationship with your customer. Okay? That's not promising for future prosperity, or your banker, or your suppliers, or your customers, or your people. I mean, think about it. You've got to have good working relationships because that's really what makes this thing work. Okay? Now, you can use this. Remember the word SPARS. It's strategy, processes, architecture, resources, systems, and empowerment. And whenever I go into a consulting assignment, or I'm riding on a plane and somebody sitting next to me wants to talk to me because they've seen my business card. Oh, you're an Ivy League professor on a business school. Let me talk to you about my company. That happens all the time. And I just say, well, what's the strategy of this company? Where are you headed? And then, wow, that's pretty cool. What are your key processes? What do you think's holding you back? And how are you structured? And you just keep asking this set of questions. They'll talk for 2 hours on a plane ride. They'll get off, they'll be shaking my hands. That was a brilliant conversation. Thank you. I've said 30 words just by going through the SPARS model, letting them talk. It's real. So I want you to look at your own questionnaire results. Okay? So that's what the 39 items are. It takes you 10 minutes to do this if you haven't done it already. But when you've done it, what are your areas of weakness? Where are your 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s? Now, let me warn you about this questionnaire. When people show me their questionnaires, the first thing I do is I look through it and estimate what's the average. And if it looks like it's all over the place, that's about right. If it looks like it's mostly in the 7s, 8s, and 9s, I say, look, I can't work with this. Start again, but do it honestly this time. Nobody's in the 7s, 8s, and 9s for everything. The average of all the people who've ever done this in the last 20 years is 5.5. So think about your own average. You got some things you're doing really well. Those ought to get 7s, 8s, and 9s. But you got some things need fixing. I don't care who you are. You've got stuff needs fixing. And those are the things you gave 1s, 2s, 3s, and 4s to. So you prioritize the low scores and say, if I could only get to one of these things to fix it, which one would it be? And that's your number one priority. If I fix that and I could only get to one other thing, what would it be? That's your number 2 priority. You can do that because you should have 10 or 12 things on your to-do list that need fixing in your company. That's normal. If you had less than that, I'd be squeezing you to say, well, let's just go through this again. How are you actually doing on this dimension? Because that's just normal for business. It's a red flag to me if somebody's all 8s and 9s and 10s. Who are you kidding? Nobody has got that. And I've worked with some of America's best managed companies over the years as a consultant. Nobody does. Okay? So it's about your to-do list. Okay? So you've got multiple homework assignments. But they're all about you. I don't want to see them. I'm not going to grade you on the assignments. You're doing it for you. Okay? Your business needs to be as good as it can be, but it also has to be suited to the customer base you're going after. If they're too big for you, pick somebody smaller. If they want a different operating strategy than you're capable of delivering, it's going to be a nightmare. Pick a different customer. But go after the customers that are right for you. Do well at them. Remember, it's a relationship business. If you screw up on that customer, there's a lot of other people going to avoid you. If you do a good job for that customer, even if you don't make much money, that's an investment in your future. In the construction industry, you're in an industry where people gossip all the time. Okay? Sorry. Okay, I've gone over by about 20 minutes. So Javed, can you take over? Can you eliminate my screen and do what you got to do? Javed, you still there?
You're right on time, Len. You're fine.
Right on
So
time.
first
All
of
right.
all,
Good.
everybody, let's give a virtual applause and thank Len for such a great presentation. I mean, this sets the tone for the entire semester. The concepts that everybody learned today, the concepts that Len has shared really will resonate throughout every class through the entire semester. From defining your strategy to identifying the weaknesses within your business to enhancing your operational strategy and certainly aligning yourself with the customer, with the clients that we work with, and positioning yourself for the future. That's what this is all based on. And each of our course topics, each of our semester elements will help shape that throughout the rest of this year and season. So thank you again, Len. We definitely I think we're all better off and wiser than when we started at the beginning of the day. So appreciate that again. I've got a few closing slides here. So Len, if you, I'm gonna take over.
Yep.
Hopefully everyone can see the screen here. So I'm going to do a quick recap of the assignments that Len gave us. So let's make sure we all have and get to that screen here. We've made it this far without any issues. Let's see if we can get it straightened out. Are you seeing anything on your end, everybody?
We are.
Okay, perfect. So Len talked about a few assignments here. So number one, if you go to, you're going to get all the slides too. So just to keep that in mind, identify the areas of weakness that you feel you need to strengthen most. This goes back to the first part of Len's presentation. He identified 8 weaknesses, the top 8 weaknesses of entrepreneurial businesses. So whether it's a mix of all of them, whether it's certain ones that are really your area of focus, number one, identify where you need to strengthen those. We're going to tie our semester, each of our courses, into how you overcome those challenges. So starting next week with our financial statements and accounting, that's going to identify what weaknesses you can overcome by strengthening your financial statements, by strengthening the accounting elements and components of your business. Number 2, in part 2 of defining your strategy, Len talked about your core competencies. So number 1, what are your core competencies and how are they focused on the best opportunities that you can create for your business? And then the value chain component. You recall those diagrams that he shared, and tying it back to our industry, what you want to do is see where are you best positioned and how can you expand your share of the value chain. And we're going to start to talk a little bit more about that in detail in some of our upcoming classes too. Operational strategy. So this was our quality, cost, delivery, flexibility exercises. And we're going to spend some more time on that in upcoming classes too, early on, to identify how you can make sure that you're prioritizing those 4 categories to what the owner's priorities are. And as Len talked about, those change. They're never static. And even within a client's own projects, they may have one set of priorities for one particular job, but they may change for the next one. So that's going to be a real important area for us to focus on as we move forward. And then lastly, what we just covered with respect to developing your strategy for the future. There's 2 questionnaires that we shared. So those were in your email from last night, from yesterday. The sparse questionnaire, which Len just described, and then your business strategy questionnaire, which addresses identifying your competition. How are they differentiated? How do you differentiate yourself from your competition? And what's your positioning in the market? So look at those, as well as addressing the questions in the slides that talked about process, systems, and controls. So there was a question earlier about elaborating on that. Hopefully we covered that in more detail. And these are all going to be parts of the things that we're going to talk about more in our upcoming classes. All of you received your program guide. So the program guide was emailed out with your acceptance letter, and I've extracted a few things from that, and I want to make sure we cover. So number 1, everybody that you heard from at our welcome address and our opening comments from our guest speakers, participation and your commitment to participate. So we have a big group here. I'm excited about the prospects. I'm excited about seeing everybody in person. I'm excited about meeting with you each week. But the key thing here is making sure that you're participating, obviously, in our classes. We have quarterly assessments that come up. And when those times come, you'll see that there'll be an assignment that you'll prepare in advance, and then there'll be some class discussion. Certainly at the end of the program, we'll have the capstone RFP and a presentation, and we'll describe that more in detail as we get closer. And then, of course, graduation, which is what we're all striving for and excited to get to. The assessments, we'll talk about that a little bit more as we get closer to that time. Basically, we've divided the 8 months into 3 different categories, and there'll be an assessment at each to make sure everybody's following along and you've captured the information from each component, from each quarter. Obviously, life happens. Obviously, we're in still sensitive times with the environment that we're in. We need to take care of ourselves. We need to take care of our health. We need to take care of our families. So absences happen. It happens to me. It happens to everybody. So we do understand that. And so what I would ask is if you do have an absence that you're going to miss class, reach out to me. Call me, text me, email me. Let me know. I've been diligent about making sure all of you are available and ready for today's class. So you've either heard me call you, you've either seen me text you or email you. Do the same with me, please. So if anything comes up, please reach out to me. I'm your constant here for the rest of the semester. As I mentioned earlier, we will have a digital library that we're going to share with the course content. So what you saw today, between the recordings here and the presentations that Len's given, we're going to share those with you. So you'll be able to refer to those throughout the semester. And after each class, you're going to actually get the presentation for each class the day of. So you have a chance to follow along. And then at the end of class, any other follow-up assignments will also be shared with you as well. Lastly, graduation. Again, that's going to come up in April after our courses are complete. There'll be an opportunity, again, for everybody to join for lunch, giving out awards, giving out recognition, and then that's the big time where we announce the capstone winner. So more to come on that. The last 2 slides here that I have, actually the last few slides, the semester schedule, you have this in your guide. If anybody does not have it, please reach out to me, but all of you have this information for the next 8 months. This is your Bible. This is your guide. So what you see here is the date, the class, the time. Time won't change. Today was the only exception. 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. every Wednesday night. And you'll note which ones are in person and which ones are virtual. So next week, we all get to meet each other. We all get to see each other. We all get to interact face to face. We have our first in-person session. And you'll see that the class shows the balance that are virtual and then which ones are dedicated. So we have 12 total classes that are in person. And I'll be sending reminders out each week. Continuing into 2023. For our in-person classes, we are going to be at Dawson Tech. Hopefully everybody is familiar with where Dawson Tech is. If you're not, the slide shows you where, and your guide shows you where. So 39th and State. Pretty easy access off the expressway. Plenty of public transportation if that's what you prefer. There's secure parking there. When you arrive, you will check in at the main security desk. And we're going to be in room 330. Dawson Tech, room 330 next Wednesday. We will be in person. And everybody will get a calendar invite just as you did for today's session. So you'll have that on your calendar and reminders will be sent out too. And everybody, that concludes our session. So I want to open it up. If there are any final questions to ask Len or me about any part of the presentation, any of our logistics here, anything from our earlier presenters, feel free to ask now.
I'm sorry, quick question. This is Perla Castro. The homework and the documents that you sent us, do we need to send that to anyone or is it just for us to kind of do the work?
It is your honor code. So it is for yourself to assess. You don't need to submit those. We're not going to make it public. So the questionnaires are for yourself. And I'm going to actually pull up the slide again here to review the recap. So each of these elements are really to help you enhance your business. So the results of that we're not going to share with anybody. You don't, and honestly, when we come to class, it is, I would say you're more than welcome. Anybody is more than welcome to share any comments or ask any questions with related to any of these components. So say, for example, if you have a question on value chain, we're going to spend some time in class to talk about it. If you have any questions as far as the sparse strategy. So, but the results and your responses to it are all confidential for yourself.
Thank you. And one more question. For the ones in person, will you be recording those or not in case we cannot make them?
So so we will be recording the virtual classes. So these Blue Jeans classes, these will be the ones that will be recorded. Unfortunately, don't have a means to record the in-person because we're obviously trying to encourage everybody to be there in person. We can look to try to see if we can at least do an audio. But as of right now, the plan is to record the virtual sessions.
Gotcha. Thank you. Yeah. I'm going to be traveling October and November for work, so that's what I'm worried about. But we'll talk. Thank you.
Let's talk offline to see what the impact is for you.
Listen. Thank you.
Any other questions? Good comments?
Yeah, Javed, I'm sorry. I just sent your text message. And you asked me, was I logged in as D? Yeah, that was me.
I figured.
Okay.
Any other comments, questions, anything for Len while we have Len as captive audience here?
I just want to make a comment for him. This is D Measure Twice Construction. Looking forward to this journey. What you shared today was very informational. And I just want to tell you that I know the other guys appreciate it, but I definitely appreciate everything.
Thank you, D. Well, if there are no other comments, we can officially adjourn today. Thank you again, everybody. This was a great day, and look forward to seeing everybody in person, meeting you all in person next week, and
see you next week.
Enjoy the rest of your afternoon. Enjoy the rest of the week. Have a good weekend, and stay safe. And we'll see you next Wednesday, everybody.
All right.
All right.
Thanks again,
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Look forward to
Thank
seeing you.
you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right.
All right.